at drinklmnt.com/Christy. That's KRISEI. Now, back to the video. Lifting weights and running don't have to be mutually exclusive. I weigh about 132 pounds, and I have a deadlift max of 380 pounds, a back squat of 330 pounds, a front squat of 283 pounds, and my best mile time is 5:19. My marathon time is 3 hours and 4 minutes, and my half marathon is 1 hour and 32 minutes, which is about 7 minutes to 7:03 pace per mile. I can sit here and I can tell you that you can do both. But for me, it took a long journey of understanding that and some trial and error that I want to share with you in today's video. I started as an endurance athlete, and I definitely didn't want to lift weights because I thought it was going to make me bulky and I thought it was going to make me slow. I thought I was going to feel heavy while I was running. I thought it had to be one or the other. Either I could run really well or I had to spend time building muscle and lifting weights to get stronger. Then I found CrossFit and I started weight training along with conditioning. I was one of the top CrossFit Games female athletes for 7+ years. I was also one of the smallest athletes and still am, so I spent an incredible amount of time doing weightlifting to get stronger to be able to compete with the other girls. I was also one of the best runners in the sport. I was worried that my running was going to suffer spending all of this time weightlifting. But what I found is when I would hit my interval sessions and I would hit my track sessions, or when I would race at the CrossFit Games, I was racing faster than I ever had or comparable to the times before I even started CrossFit. I think it's pretty obvious though, if you want to excel, if you want to be the top in the world at powerlifting, you're probably not going to be running marathons. If you want to be the top marathon runner in the world, you're also not going to be spending time hitting 1 to 3 singles, trying to build complete strength when it comes to powerlifting. But you can do both, and they don't have to be mutually exclusive from each other. What I learned throughout my entire training career is that focusing on weightlifting didn't mean I couldn't run. Focusing on running didn't mean I couldn't weightlift. It just came down to how we fit them into the program and what that looked like, and doing it strategically and smartly so I could get the best and the most bang for my buck out of both and still achieve my goals. What this typically looked like for me, and this is something that you could also do depending on what your goals are, is if I was focusing specifically on getting stronger, then I needed to put my strength sessions up front. So that means I started my day with 60 to 90 minutes of weightlifting, where my sole focus was to get as much out of that weightlifting session as possible, making sure I was fresh going into the weightlifting session so I could perform my best and set myself up to get as strong as possible. Then I would rest a couple hours or space these out between days. So if I had a hard interval running session, I would make sure not to put it directly after this weightlifting session, but I would put it at the start of my second session. So I had time to recover, time to go home and eat, and then come back and feel refreshed and ready. Maybe, yes, I would have hit that running session a little bit harder, or maybe a second or two faster per running interval, or felt slightly better if I hadn't weightlifted in the morning. But being the smaller weights that say they just don't want to run because it's really going to hinder their weightlifting, to me, it just sounds like an excuse, because you can work it into the program to where it will not be detrimental based on how you space those sessions apart. You have no idea how hard it is to build muscle. I was so afraid of getting so bulky, and I've spent the last 10+ years dedicating my life to building as much muscle and getting as strong as possible. And I think the first thing most people say to me is, wow, you're so much smaller than I thought you were going to be when I meet them in person. If you start touching weights and you instantly just start bulking up, then you should 100% be a professional athlete, and you should find that sport for you. But the excuse of not lifting weights because you think you're going to get bulky is honestly just a myth at this point. And it's something that you just need to take a step back and realize. To build muscle takes so much time, dedication, consistency. You have to dial in your sleep, your diet, your nutrition, your workouts. And you're not just gonna all of a sudden put on 30 pounds of muscle mass because you lifted a barbell. This took me a while to understand, and I fell in love with the process and I fell in love with the journey, and I hope that you can too, because lifting weights as a female makes you feel empowered. It helps your self-esteem. It makes you feel absolutely amazing, and there's just something to be said about being a strong female. Just because you focus on lifting weights doesn't mean you have to give up your conditioning. I personally absolutely love the conditioning aspect because it makes me feel good. It gives me the runner's high. It gives me the good endorphins when I get home from a workout, when I held a pace that I was hoping to heal. When I held a pace I was hoping to hold. It's so important to be able to do both, because like I said, that's when you can be your fittest, healthiest, and happiest, and also the strongest version of yourself. So don't be afraid to pick up a weight thinking that it's going to just send all of your paces down the drain when it comes to running. You can pick up those weights, and honestly, in the end, they're going to end up bulletproofing your hips. They're going to bulletproof your joints. They're going to make you less injury prone when it comes to the running and the harder intervals, because you're going to be a stronger version of yourself, and you can support yourself on those interval runs. I think a perfect recipe when it comes to lifting weights and training is resistance training 4 to 5 days a week, and then running 2 to 3. 2 of those sessions could be more interval tempo threshold runs where you are running at your pace, and your third session could be a lighter, longer run. When I say lighter, longer, just think conversational pace, zone 2, where you could go out with your best friend and you could chat the entire way, aiming for about 40 to 45 minutes of running. Then for those other 2, maybe it's 40 to 45 minutes with built-in rest, where you're working to actively hold some paces that put you in that aerobic zone 3 to zone 4 effort. We run a program called the Performance Aesthetics Program that is exactly this. There's weight training 3 days a week with 2 cardio workouts, which one of those is always running intervals. So you can get your 3 days of weight training and resistance training that is focused on compound lifts and high volume accessory work to help you build muscle and get stronger. And then we have 1 day of running intervals that's usually between 40 and 50 minutes. And then 1 longer cardio day, which is typically 45 minutes plus, that isn't necessarily running focused, but it's going to help you continue to increase your aerobic